Hello and welcome to episode 342 of Ferg on the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can follow me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And join me as always is the glorious and somewhat mellow League Freak. You can also find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
Going pretty well. What made you think I was mellow?
Hey, we just had a lovely, friendly, calm, relaxed chat.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the world that could upset us at the moment, surely.
No, I think that everything's fine in the world.
Yeah, Tigers have missed I was going to say they've missed the finals, but let's be honest, they're still mathematical.
Are you prepared for what's going to happen? Like physically? I know emotionally you're prepared, but physically?
Yeah. Because, I've been physically and mentally prepared for what's going to happen about 23 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
But if the Tigers are just doing some number crunching, I'm the stats man, so This is what I do.
Yeah. I've
just
heard that, hey.
It's got around a bit.
Yeah.
So if the Tigers can pull off a casual, say, let's see, 70-point win against the Panthers tomorrow, and I don't know who they're playing next week. Who gives a fuck? If they beat them by 70 points as well,
yes,
and the Sharks lose to the Storm next week, even just by 1 point, boom, Tigers are in the top 8. It's as simple as that. That's how mathematical it is.
They're playing the Bulldogs next week, so it is completely possible.
Well, that could reduce this week's game against Penrith down to a 50-point win.
Yeah.
And then just put 90 on the Dogs. Or, you just to make it a bit more easier, I dare say, if the Storm can put 100 on the Sharks, that makes the Tigers equation a lot easier.
Yeah, I can see these scenarios working out. The West Tigers are due for something to go their way. And I think it's time. I think it's going to happen this next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't. But, we live in hope. The interesting thing is the Tigers are $501 to $1 to make the grand final.
Really?
Yeah. That's short.
That's really, really short.
That's really short.
It should at least be 1,000 to 1.
They should be making that at least. If they want money, they should be making this 50 million to 1.
Just get people chucking it on.
Just get everybody going. I'll put 10 cents on that.
Imagine if the Panthers decided to forfeit the match.
Oh, that wouldn't help. Because
that wouldn't help.
The for and against is what happens. If the Panthers said, you know what, we've decided that we're going to rest every single player we've got in the bubble. So we're going to let the SG ball team. They've been all at home with their mums and dads. They're all good.
Yeah.
We'll let them play the West Tigers.
Yeah. All of a sudden you see people running out for the Panthers and they're like
pajamas.
Their Queensland Cup fucking reserve grade quality players. They've just got anyone they can. Yeah. There'd be like 14 Walker brothers in there somehow.
There'd be a few blokes that look like they've been hanging around a pub at Kingswood somewhere.
Yeah.
Just put a jumper on, buddy. You'll be fine.
You'll be sweet, bruh.
He'll be wobbling around on the ground. Give him the ball. He'll be fine. Just make him run.
I just thought of a story we didn't talk about before that I want to bring up. I know we're talking about the Tigers and Panthers, but how about that story about Lachlan Lewis allegedly getting caught allegedly stealing a NRL-owned speaker that he then immediately put on eBay while he's up there in Queensland? What the fuck?
He's gone. I saw what you did last year, Tim Simona. Hold my beer.
It is the strangest story because it's like even he is pretty well paid,
Yeah.
And so it's not like he's if he was a minimum wage player, I'd say, oh, yeah, at some point these guys are barely making a living out of the game and, you just need the wrong person with the wrong idea in the head. But he's on a whack of money by anyone's standards. And, did he think he was going to get away with it? It must have been allegedly in his hotel room while he had it on eBay.
I assume so. The interesting thing is, I think the amount that he had it up there for was almost the same as the number of points that the Bulldogs have conceded this year. It was 670 odd bucks. Something like that.
Just one of the strangest. Anytime you think rugby league can't come up with something even more strange, that's right up there. That is right up there. You know what it reminded me of is there was a former English player, and he did nothing wrong. He was completely entitled to do it. I think it was Keith Senior, who anytime he was in the grand final or anything like that, he would immediately put the medals that he'd get, especially the runner-up medals, on eBay. 2 days later, they'd be on eBay to buy.
What was that?
I don't know.
That's interesting.
It would be like he just got rid of it all immediately on eBay. And it was his stuff. It was all above board. But it was just what he did. I'm sure it was Keith Senior that would just, straight away it was on eBay.
Wow, that is weird.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. But then again, if you're one of these athletes that doesn't feel the need to collect these things, why not sell it?
Well, why not just give it to someone? I mean, he would have been one of the few English players that would have actually been earning decent coin.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Being a test player and everything. So, you wouldn't need the money. Why don't you just give it away to someone? Give it to a fan. Imagine that. He gets some sort of premiership medallion or something like that. And then, gets off the dais and just walks over to someone in the crowd and says, here you go, this is yours. And then walks off. Imagine the fucking headlines you get for that. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, people would go nuts. Who was the Bulldogs player? I think it was Jonathan Thurston. Didn't he give his winner's medal to what's his name? Steve Price?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the story that went around for a long time. I think what happened was Steve Folkes gave his to Steve Price.
Yeah.
And Thurston gave his to Steve Folkes or something like that.
Okay.
There was someone else involved in the process.
Okay.
But yeah, JT definitely did give his away though.
Yeah, because I remember the headlines at the time were that Thurston gave his one to Price, but I can see where that got mixed up by whoever wrote that headline. But yeah,
journalist A.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Isn't it weird to think that journalism was way better back then, and it was trash back then?
It was still bad. Yeah. There's speaking of journalism.
Yes.
Brent Reid in the Australian today has suggested that the NRL Digital is going to get rid of its website panel shows next year, which is NRL teams inside the NRL. There were a few others as well. Basically just NRL preview type shows and nothing scandalous or anything like that. Just basically looking forward to the games ahead. I think there might have even been one about fantasy football. I've be honest, I've never watched any of them, but they're there. And there are some people who probably enjoy watching them. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't.
Any rugby league content's good content.
Yeah, so long as it's Fergo and the Freak.
Yeah. Well, our content's good content. All the other stuff is trash. But I always it was information. It was information for the fans and on some level pure information as well.
Yeah, that's right. In saying that, as much as I didn't watch any of that, I don't watch any panel show on NRL, Fox, or Nine anymore at all. None of them. Don't care.
Yeah, I will actively avoid them. Like when the Sunday night game finishes and Matthew John show comes on, I'll put anything else on.
Yeah, I've actually recorded the test pattern from 1992
Yeah.
the end of the ABC broadcast. And I make sure I put that on as soon as the last game ends, just to make sure I don't see any of that horse shit that Matty Johns has got to share, which is usually just, let's be honest, his normal programming is, make some dumb jokes. We know they're jokes because he laughs to give us the cue to laugh. Then poke fun at Heidi about either being fat or being a gambling addict or never winning a premiership. And then Fletch will make jokes about drug use, like recreational drug use, and something about being paid lots of money, being rich because he's on the east side. And then there'll be just a random, tedium about tits and dicks and bum jokes, which they usually do because they can't help themselves. That's pretty much it. I mean, that's the rundown for every single Matty John show that's ever aired.
What do you reckon the rundown for our show would be?
Well, to be honest, people get to see the rundown for our show because we'll sit there and chat for about 5 minutes and go, fuck it, let's press record.
We record it, yeah. I reckon people would say, like, they do the intro, pretty straightforward. They have a little chat, bring up some rugby league. A league freak talks about eating some random animal. They talk more rugby league. Andrew brings up a stat, and they talk about that for 20 minutes. And then they talk about something completely off the charts that's weird and makes you kind of want to turn the whole podcast off if you're listening in front of someone else. And then they wrap it up by asking you to follow their Patreon.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that Andrew will often just whinge relentlessly about the Tigers.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be honest, that's become a bit typecast of me. I've pigeonholed myself there.
They talk about how bad the West Tigers are for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's always there. We'll try and keep that out because I haven't played yet this week, so that's a bonus for the listeners.
Oh, I can't wait until Sunday night's episode.
Yeah. I'll be still trying to justify the fact that they're mathematical.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this, okay, is that at the start of this year, actually, we'll go back even further.
Okay.
When Peter V'landys came to power, as we went through on the podcast a few times, it was on the back of Fox and Nine's, in quotation marks, journalists running these bullshit articles about Greenberg being wasteful with NRL funds.
Mm-hmm. Remember,
they were looking at the administration costs and basically assuming or enforcing the idea that that was admin wages almost entirely, when it wasn't, because that money actually also included the digital arm.
Yeah, and leaving out the fact that at the time the NRL was putting in place a lot of things that the game didn't have in place, and was setting it up and running a lot of different programs and things like that. And there was a lot of money being spent, but there was a lot of money being invested into the game as well. And as you say, they basically wrote it up like, oh, look at the fat cats in the NRL giving themselves giant salaries.
That's right. So from that, Greenberg got the arse. I think they made it out as though his contract came to an end and he left.
Yeah.
But they got rid of him. That's all they wanted. And they got their man, their plant. PVL became the ARLC boss. And then shortly after that, a watered-down deal with Nine, which didn't need to be negotiated.
No.
But he brought that negotiation forward into the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, he basically renegotiated at the worst possible time, extended the deal, and cut the deal by $30 million, which is, funnily enough, the exact same amount of money Nine then turned around and gave to Rugby Union and set up Stan Online and basically turned Stan Sport into a Rugby Union channel.
Yeah, that's right. And from that, we've had the NRL digital arm getting rolled back rather rapidly, because this year the NRL stopped having live streaming of all of their games.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, or the year before, 2019, as long as you had an NRL account, which was free for most, I think it was free to actually have. I can't remember. I had one, still do. not that it means anything now.
Mm-hmm.
You had an NRL account, you could actually just go and watch any game live, and it was just a live broadcast from Nine or Fox, but you could watch it on the NRL website.
Yeah.
Now, the NRL can no longer show their own games on their own website, which is just laughable. And now they can't have their own panel programming because it clashes with Fox Sports and Nine's panels. So they scratch those as well. So we've essentially got to the point now where the NRL has no digital arm at all anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and look at how many more people do they need to lay off in terms of the comms people that they employed that used to be journalists. I mean, it could only be a half a dozen of them left. And then my guess is the NRL website will just be populated by News Limited and Channel 9 articles, which, that would be poisonous.
Yeah, I do worry that that's where we're heading here.
Yeah.
I had some bloke from England, the only person to argue with me on this one.
Yeah.
He says it's because the NRL aren't a media and broadcast company. I was like, well, they aren't anymore.
Yeah, they're not now.
But you've got to set that shit up. And that was like a huge building block, was the fact that they had that set up and they were in the right space to take the next step forward.
But
instead it's been rolled back in two big chunks in the space of 18 months.
And the thing that people forget with all of this is that the NRL is then able to sell advertising on that. And they're able to go to sponsors and say, look, we've got, and I'm just making up numbers here, but they could say, we've got 1,000 hours worth of exclusive live coverage of the game that you can sponsor and things like that. Now they don't have that anymore. It's sad to see. I think that it's a good thing for the game to have its own shows and things like that set up as like they weren't for me, but I understand that people did watch them and did enjoy them, and I'm sad to see them go because less rugby league content's a bad thing.
That's right. So it's for me, it's worrying because we're starting to see now, like if it wasn't already obvious before, it's abundantly clear now that PVL just kowtows entirely to whatever Fox and Nine ask him to do.
Yeah.
He is essentially, let's be honest, he is their bitch.
Yeah, and I mean, even when you look at things like they're talking about bringing in another team in Brisbane, we don't know. I doubt that they're going to do that anytime soon, and I hope that they do. But just reading the tea leaves, it seems like they're looking for excuses not to do it. And they're talking about the next broadcasting deal. And there's already rumblings from the media that will be paying for the broadcasting deal saying, ooh, it's going to be less. It's going to be less. And looking at the TV ratings, and TV ratings are down this year. And I think a lot of that has to do with the ridiculous rules that have been brought in that have made the competition just a mess to watch. You know, we've got a 2-horse race competition now. It's fantastic. But there's no doubt that Peter V'landys and the current NRL administration have done a very good job at setting up the competition to run at a moment's notice and move to a different state if needed and move games around and all that sort of thing. I think that's been impressive. But outside of that, every other decision has been an absolute failure and has put the game in a worse position.
I fully agree. So the only thing I can see coming out of this is, the next, as you said, the next deal is going to come along, and Fox are going to have to come up. You know, they're going to be able to get the rights for less.
I think the only thing that will save them is if Optus Sport put in a bid, if Paramount put in a bid, and that's possible. And Paramount is owned by CBS, which owns Channel 10, so they could do a joint bid. or if we see the likes of Amazon step in and say this is a way for us to get a foot in the door in the market. If Fox Sports can't afford to lose rugby league. Without rugby league, Fox Sports is basically just AFL. And good luck with that. Good luck just selling AFL to a bunch of southern states in Australia and missing two of the three biggest TV markets. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. The problem is that with a guy like PVL in charge, and as you say, he has bent the knee every single time to the media. What is the chance that he is not going to bend the knee and give Channel 9 and Fox Sports the deal they want over the deal that the game could get elsewhere? And we've seen that happen before many, many times. The game was underfunded until we got the independent commission in place. And the people that hated that more than anyone was News Limited and Fox Sports and Channel 9, because all of a sudden they had to pay market value for the game.
Yeah. But now they've got their own plant in there. So they're able to push that price down again.
Yeah.
I can see what'll happen. There'll be an article come out about the negotiation process and how it was a tough process, but PVL believes he got the best deal. And this is how the negotiation will go down. Fox Sports will come to the table and say, right, we'll offer you $1. PVL says, can we make it $2? And Fox goes, okay. That'll be it.
They will point to the TV ratings, leaving out the fact that TV ratings for everything are down, and that if you're a free to air broadcaster, or you are even a cable TV provider, there is so much more that you are fighting against now, even just YouTube, and so they will leave that out of it. They'll talk about the economic downturn, leaving aside the fact that the stock market is up, leaving aside the fact that big companies are worth more now than they were before the pandemic. And they will say that he made the deal the game needed and he saved rugby league. And you know what? He was a really tough negotiator, but we got everything we wanted.
Yeah, I think people too, I mean, you and I have only been saying this for a year now, but I think people are starting to realise too that PVL got far too much high praise for getting the game restarted.
Yeah.
Now, let me say this. It was a good effort on his behalf to get the game restarted as early as he did. That's where the praise ends, because they were making it like he got the game started when there was no chance of ever getting started again. And that's just wrong, because nearly every other sport got started. So it doesn't matter how good or bad administrators are anywhere, they all were able to get their sports up and running again. So
yeah,
it's not like getting the NRL back up and running again was the hard job. That was always going to happen, no matter who was in power. The feat he had is he got it done a little bit earlier. And we're talking 2, maybe 3 weeks earlier.
Couple of weeks, yeah.
It's nothing huge.
Keeping in mind that a lot of the clubs were based in one city, and it was very easy to, with all of these sports shut down in that city, to basically hire the handful of venues that they decided to use and play the games there in front of no one. Like, it wasn't the hardest thing in the world to do. It was just a matter of getting it done.
Yeah. So you had to break the mold because no one else was able to do it. So he had to be the first to do it, talking with ministers and all that other gear. And as I said, that aspect is commendable, but that's about it. He didn't save anything. Nothing was dying. Nothing was saved.
No.
He just got it started a little bit earlier than what other sports did. That's it. He's done nothing else since other than oversee a lot of the largest volume of stupid fucking rule changes the game's had in such a short period of time. And I don't think any of them have been to the improvement of the game.
No.
Can
I ask you, because I did a podcast about the proposed kicking rule that Wayne Pearce was sprouting in the media. He's part of the innovation team, whatever that means. And he said, hardly anyone kicks for touch anyway. He doesn't really notice it. Which is a common theme with Wayne Pearce. When you hear him talk about the game, he talks about how he doesn't watch every game and things like that. It's very strange, especially for someone that's on the Australian Rugby League Commission.
Yeah, it makes him a perfect person to have on there.
Yeah, just casually, partly interested. Tell me, because everyone knows what I think about it, tell me what you thought when you heard this rule change, which for anybody that hasn't heard it, basically anytime you kicked for touch and the ball went either out on the full or out on the bounce, if it wasn't a 40-20 or it wasn't a 20-40, which has never been used once, it would be a 7-tackle set. So tell me what you think about that proposed rule change.
Fuck off and fuck off now. And when you fuck off some more. Go on, off your fuck with all these fucking rule changes.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I felt.
Wow.
It's
the whole idea of this thing was to, again, and I don't know why, to reduce the amount of time when the ball is out of play. Like, we need to keep going 24/7. That's what we need to be doing. Ball must keep going. We must keep moving. We can't keep stopping. We can't do anything. The next thing that's going to happen is they're going to have a look at everything that causes stoppage in play, which means we're going to have to stop tries and kicking goals because the play stops after that. But we just need to be running backwards and forwards and tackling all the time and not worry about a scoreboard. Let's just see how quickly we can go up and down the field all the time. And then all of a sudden, we're just watching national beep tests.
Beep tests, yeah. I was going to say that.
That's it. Is that all they want? Is fucking beep tests with a football involved?
They basically want a slightly better version of Bull Rush. And the weird thing is that for all their supposed speeding up the game, I have never, ever in my entire life seen football games stopped more than this year and last year. And we stopped for everything. We are now stopping games just to check nothing illegal happened. And then when nothing illegal happened, then we restart the game. There was an incident in the game tonight between the Storm versus the Eels where Ryan Pappenhausen ran into Dylan Brown's shoulder. And Dylan Brown wasn't even looking at him. Ryan Pappenhausen falls on the ground, starts grabbing his head. We stopped the game for 2 minutes while he laid on the ground. And then he gets up and they check it and there's nothing illegal in there and stuff. And the game just randomly stopped for 2 minutes. And Ryan Pappenhausen never left the field, which was kind of scary to me because this is a dude that's had a lot of concussion issues this year. They left him out there. We're seeing too many instances where, like there was another one earlier in the match where Brandon Smith, he got hit in a tackle and he grabbed his shoulder and he was on the ground for maybe 15 seconds. He got up and we stopped the game. And we stopped it and they ran over to him and they had a look at him and he was just hurt. He was fine. He was just hurt, which happens. But I've never seen the game stopped as many times in my life. And it's weird because you watch these games and you're like, I want to watch a football game. And that's why you and me have said the best footy game we watched all year was the Women's State of Origin match because all of the stoppages were removed and they played by the rules from 2019, which we need to go back to as soon as possible.
You know what? That's a really, really, I can't stress how really smart thing that was you just said then. I fully agree with it all.
Oh, sometimes I make some good points, don't I?
And then you just make the purest and clearest of sense.
Well, I don't know any other way, Andrew. I can't even help it at this point.
That's right. Now, look, I did go through and have a look at some of the quotes that Wayne Pearce had pulled out of his ass for this fucking thing.
Okay.
Because there's some dumb ones there.
Okay.
So I'm just going to read some of his quotes about this whole shit.
But before you get into that, is this a bit heartbreaking for you?
It's complicated. Yeah. Because, I mean, I really did love Wayne Pearce as a player. And let's be honest, one of the greatest locks the game's had, revolutionised the role quite a bit too because he was a genuine ball player, but rock fucking solid in defence and could play full 80 minutes with the same intensity in the 80th minute as he had in the first.
Yeah.
And that focus on fitness and just the utter professionalism of the bloke as a player, just never ever seen before in Australian Rugby League. And he broke the mold, and everybody had to start going and following by his style and his methods. And it was a large reason as to why we have the game the way it is today, is that players started realizing that, shit, this is now got to be the new normal, and they all start following that system instead of just going to the pub and getting pissed 5 days every week and smoking a pack of durries and go to training at the end of work. And it stopped being a game full of tradies and started being a game that you actually had to be a professional athlete in.
Well, if you looked at a lock or a back rower from just 5 years before, completely different thing. I mean, the only thing I can think that I think Chook Raper is probably the only other player that you could say, I mean, and look, he was decades ahead of his time.
Yeah. You had him and Ron Coote both came through the same time. They were the only two that they generally changed the way the lock forward played.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had a bit of a gap. Ray Price, who was just a intense competitor the whole way through and never ever quit. And then you just had the professional ball playing finesse of Wayne Pearce and Brad Clyde both come through at the same time.
Yeah.
Just kept the evolution of that role changed so rapidly from the 60s, 70s, 80s into the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got, as much as I know you're not a fan of him, but Paul Gallen then became that sort of hit up and tackling monster sort of thing that the lock forward had to become when you had that stupid interchange rule shit going on in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And then once that sort of settled down and we had proper rules come into place and a bit of normalcy, you then had the Jason Tormalolo type character.
Yeah.
Which the game's rules are now trying to kill.
Yeah, because who wants to see one of the greatest forwards of all time dominating, doing everything great? No one wants to see that.
Well, let's get back to Wayne Pearce's stupid comments.
Yes.
He said, at the moment, when a ball gets kicked into touch, there's a turnover and the team can have it in the middle of the field or wherever they want to have it. My view is that there's a difference between a player running into touch, whether it be trying to score a try or whatever, and a player deliberately kicking into touch to slow the play down.
Well, I guess he's right in some regards, but it's not like, why is it a bad thing to want to slow the game down? Like, when did tactics become a bad thing?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't ask yourself, Wayne, as to why players are trying to slow the game down. Don't look into whether there's a correlation between fatigue, injuries, and blowout scorelines. Don't do that.
Yeah, but okay, here's a question for you. It's the early to mid 90s, and Ricky Stewart just did something that was completely amazing, and he did it with his kicking game.
Yep.
And it was always, he would put a kick downfield and he would find touch like about 5 meters out from the opposition team, turns them around, and he makes them have to, ruck it out from basically their own 10-meter line.
Yep.
And the Canberra Raiders changed so many games that way. And nobody ever looked at that and said, oh, this sucks. This is horrible. It was always, how good is Ricky Stewart? He's amazing. And if everyone was as good as him, how good would the game be?
Exactly.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
Like, having tactics is a good thing.
Yeah, that's what separates good teams from the West Tigers.
Yeah.
So he wanted to say his rule change, which is 7 tackle set for the team defending. Effectively, it's like the 20-meter tap restart for quicks that go beyond the in-goal. Teams hate that because the extra tackle means a significant difference to where the play will end up on the last tackle. It's not something that pops its head up in many games anyway. There might be games where they don't kick the ball into touch. Some teams use it as a ploy because they think we can slow it down and get our defence set. Now, it's worth noting that the 7 tackle set came in essentially to stop teams trying to nullify Billy Slater. Let's be honest, that's what it was.
Yeah, and remember when Billy Slater was nullified?
No,
No, neither do I.
no. Because the dumb thing about that was, instead of making Billy Slater return the ball from his own goal line, he now got to rest while his team got an extra tackle and they started from the 20-meter line. You didn't nullify anything, you fucking idiots. You just helped his side even further.
I am sure that if you asked every coach in the game, would you rather your fullback get the ball, or would you just rather just a straight 1/5 of the field turnover? They would all say, give me a fifth of the field every time.
And an extra tackle.
Yeah. But it was like, I never understood that idea of, they're kicking the ball dead and it's nullifying Greg Inglis and Billy Slater. And I'm like, you're talking about the most dynamic, dangerous players that are all deciding who the grand final winners are right now. Like, the most important position on the field. No one's nullifying them. What are they talking about? But they brought it in anyway. And, all of a sudden we've got rugby league games where some sets are 6 tackles and some are 7. And it it's just silly.
It's very silly. Furthermore, when you get the set restart bullshit come in as well, you can now get some sets that'll go for like 15, 16 tackles.
It's ridiculous. And but that's the thing. We see how much one tackle makes a difference. Like, when you get one extra tackle, it's bad. When you get like 14 extra tackles,
that's perfect example was the Sharks Broncos game today. The first 6 minutes of that game, Cronulla had all the ball. Brisbane never touched it, and Sharks scored a try. And then the next 6 minutes, I kid you not, it was exactly perfect. Another 6 minutes. Brisbane had all the ball and they scored a try.
And
that wasn't good football to watch.
No. And the idea of having a limited amount of tackles was that you knew how many tackles you had left, and you had to do something with the ball. And if you didn't do something with the ball, the other team got it. Now, that's out the window because you can just have it almost gets to a point where teams are getting unlimited tackles. And on top of that, now the NRL wants to bring in a rule where if you do get the ball back and the momentum has been against you and you've been defending your own line, now they don't want you to tactically be able to kick the ball over the sideline, slow the game down. Yeah, definitely. But then make the opposition be on the back foot and maybe get back into the contest. I don't understand the thinking behind, rugby league is not the most complex game in the world to begin with. But the thing that makes a sport great is the tactical differences between the sports and what you can do to slow it down. The best players ever, we have always said, they play the game slower than everyone else. Darren Lockyer played the game slow, and yet he was quicker than everyone else with all of his decision-making.
Yeah.
And everything he did. It didn't matter that, and he would slow everything down. And that's what the great players do, because tactically they're ahead of everyone else. The idea that you get rid of that is, I don't understand it.
No, it makes no sense. Furthermore, what doesn't make sense is this next quote from him. I can't see the sense in change for change's sake. That's why we might run with the one trial and see how that goes because the feedback has been pretty good over the changes we've brought in over the last couple of years.
I don't know what feedback he's watching, but I have seen my Twitter feed go from thinking the rules have been okay overall by a lot of people to now just being they got to get rid of this 6 again rule.
Yeah. He also said there is no doubt, Freaky.
Mm-hmm.
No, zero, not one single doubt in his mind. Mm-hmm. There is no doubt the game flows a lot better than it had when the wrestle was in. That's for sure.
That's just wrong. He's lying.
Yeah.
There is no doubt the game has never been more stop-start in its entire history.
Yeah. And there's talk of the wrestle. The wrestle has always been in there. all that's happened now is the wrestle, when it first came in, it was all on the ground, and it was designed to essentially either put the player on their back or turn them around the other way, so that you had a slow play the ball, which meant your defenders could get back and be set, and they could rush up off their line as soon as the play the ball was done, and your defense could just stay on top of the attack and crush them. That was the idea of it. You just keep pushing them back, and so the opposition just couldn't make any meterage. That's what the wrestle was all about. And then we started seeing genuine slowing down tactics. So third man in, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just done to slow the play the ball down even further without having to resort to wrestling holds and that sort of stuff, which, you know, they lasted about 2 years and were really fucking grubby. They got pushed out of the game rather quickly, but it got replaced with third man in crap and flops and all that sort of garbage. Now we see a lot of the wrestle is about holding the player and just letting them stand.
Yeah, holding them up.
Yeah. So the wrestle essentially, the wrestle that was really bad that they hated, that's been long eliminated.
Yeah.
Now all it's about is just slowing down the play the ball. That's it. So you get your arms around the ball, and you're not trying to wreck the ball out, but you get your arms around it. You get your arm up inside, you know, that space where the player's got the ball and their arm, so that you get all tangled up. It just slows everything down. It's stupid, but it slows it down in a legal manner, and that's what teams do now. They'll try and find any way they can to slow the game down. That's all that will happen. And if there's a reason why they do it, Mr. Pierce, it's because they're getting fucking tired and they want to have a break.
And the funny thing is that right now you can stop the game more ways than any time in the game's history.
Yeah.
Like you can literally, the trainer for your team can literally run on and stop the game for you.
Yeah, we learned that looking at the West Tigers documentary. You just see Major Maguire saying, "Get Robbie out there and tell him to do this. Get him to tell him to say this, say that." And you're going, "Yeah, that's what they do. They just tell the trainer, go say some shit."
The captain can stop the game. And it's not even the proper stoppages by the captain. It can be the part where the captain just needs to go over to the referee and say, "Oh, he got that wrong. He got that wrong." And the referee's like, "Oh, do you want to challenge it?" And the captain looks around at his teammates and stuff. And this game stopped all this time. Like, I've never seen more stoppages in the game, ever. It's not even close.
And a lot of it is not because there's been a rule change. There's just been a system change. So, for example, after a try is scored, previously, if the referee wasn't sure of it, he'd call for the video referee to have a look at it, the bunker. Now, he just goes try or no try. And then as the goal kicker's going to line up the goal, the bunker's looking at it. And if they think that needs to be, you know, the goal kicker needs to stop before he has a shot at goal, they'll go, "Hang on, we just want to have another look at this." And then they look at it and they go, "Oh, we might have to take those points off the board." You're going, the whole reason behind allowing the referee to just call a try or no try on the spot instead of calling for the video was so that essentially, according to what the dickheads at Daily Telegraph are saying, the fans were being denied the chance to enjoy celebrating a try with the players when it first happens. Mm-hmm. So now we brought in this rule where the try gets awarded on the spot and the fans can all celebrate. And so, hooray, isn't that fantastic? And then 5 minutes later, after stopping and looking at the camera, we can then take the points off them. You can go, "Well, fuck you, fans." And the fans go, "Well, fuck the NRL." You're going, "Yeah, but you got to celebrate a try. Aren't you happy?"
Exactly.
Like, and it's not a try that doesn't count, but still, you got to celebrate it. That's the end result.
And this is the problem with the rule set that we have right now, is that the procedure, it's like the game isn't there just to be the sport, you know, it's there so that we can stop and do procedures. And, you know, what sport in the world it takes, that's like rugby league and darts, you take points off the board, you know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's the dumbest thing ever. And for him to say, you can't see the sense in change for change's sake, explain the 20-40 rule, explain the 2-point field goal rule, explain this idea that we should have a 7-tackle set all the fucking time. You know, the 6 again rule. That hasn't eliminated anything.
Nothing.
No, the 6 again rule, all that's done has been brought in to try and eliminate the need to have 2 referees on the field, and it's failed in both cases.
Completely
we'd
failed.
rather have 2 referees than have the stupid 6 again bullshit.
But at least it stopped the Storm being so dominant.
Yeah, the fact that he said the feedback has been pretty good over the change we've brought in over the last few years, the only reason why he can say that is because he must be hanging around a bunch of stupid old clowns who love PVL, the Daily Telegraph. Well, they're the only people going to give him that good feedback.
Yeah, well, he's not talking to people at games because you can't go to games. And, he's not talking to people in the street because you can't go anywhere. And so who the fuck is he talking to?
I don't know.
This is the problem. And, I wonder at what point we talk about clubs, NRL clubs having too much power in the game at times. At what point do the clubs get together and say, listen, the ARL Commission right now is bringing all of these rule changes in, which have been catastrophic to the game, really, really bad. And then on top of that, they're going to renegotiate all of the broadcasting deals and we're going to have less money. At what point do the clubs start to say, we got to do something about this because these bastards are doing some pretty bad stuff to the NRL. And I wrote an article during the week and it went off a little bit where I was saying how the NRL is super, super close to being a third code of rugby because the NRL isn't what you see at the normal level of rugby league around the world. It's completely different. They've got completely different rules. And it's not the same rules rugby union has. It's its own third form of rugby. And it's one that's not pleasing to watch.
That's right. This is the thing. He talks about the flow. I'd argue that the possession stats have been more lopsided in 2021 than in previous seasons.
Yeah, 100%.
So this is what you're getting at too, is that the thing that made rugby league great for the best part of 40 years was the limited tackle rule. And now that is somewhat being, I wouldn't say eliminated, it's being watered down to the point where it's starting to have the possession stats of rugby union, where a team can hold the ball, as we saw today, for 6 minutes. That's just that was largely unheard of prior to the set restart rules and all that sort of shit coming in. To be able to hold the ball for 6 minutes, that was so rare.
Very
now,
well, you think of normal. You think of it in the context of having a player sent from sent for 10 minutes, and you think to yourself, well, okay, they're going to have, like, if they're lucky, they'll have 3-4 sets where they'll have the extra man advantage. Now, you can literally have every single set except one for that whole 10 minutes, and that's never happened.
No,
and it's regularly occurring.
Yeah, it's insane. Oh, and look, one last bunch of quotes he's got. One of the things we don't want to do is change the essence of what the game is about, and that would significantly change the spirit of the game. For example, we haven't got rid of the scrums. You almost have.
Please.
What we've done is we've reduced the number of scrums, which increases the flow of the game. Reducing the number of scrums is ridding the game of scrums. Not all of them, but of most of them.
Yeah. We were at a pretty good point with scrums too, where and once again, you can use a scrum in attack tactically. And we've seen that a little bit this year where teams and I hate that they can move the scrums across the field, but they move the scrums across the field and they attack from a scrum. And once again, you go back to the mid-90s when I think rugby league was probably one of the best times to ever watch the sport, where the very, very top teams, they would use scrums and they would have set plays from them, and they were mind-blowing. They were things of art. And we just want to get rid of them because of tap. We want to have a tap, though a tap's better.
That's all right. This is what we've done is we've reduced the number of scrums, which increases the flow of the game. What happens when a team finds touch from a kick? We stop the game until everyone gets in place defensively from the attacking team, and everyone gets back on side from the defending team, and they take a tap. We haven't increased the flow of the game. That's how it used to happen before every scrum. We've got the same time being wasted. And so what? Bringing in a 7-tackle rule does not increase the flow of the game. You're still going to have to wait for everyone to get back in place before you take the 7-tackle set. You're not increasing anything. You're making no change whatsoever to the flow of the game. Getting rid of scrums, keep them in there, taking a tap, 7-tackle rule. Doesn't matter which one of those stupid things you put in there, you still have the same time wastage taking on before each of those concepts take place. So you're not increasing any fucking thing.
It's like it's change for change's sake.
That's exactly what it is. And
you've got to wonder though, like you think of what rugby league is supposed to be like, and it's going to be different for a lot of different people. But it was, rugby league was meant to be the handling sport. It was supposed to take what rugby was and take the best elements of it, which was the flowing style of ball movement and things like that. Rugby league was never meant to just be a track meet. No one wants to see a track meet. And it's almost at that level. I think that this form of rugby league we're seeing right now is worse than it was in the early 2000s under unlimited interchange. I think this is the worst rugby league I've ever seen in my life.
I'm finding it hard to put any counter against that.
Yeah.
Pearce's final throwaway line. We're conscious of the tradition and the history of the game. We don't want to tamper with that.
Well, that's all they're doing. All they've done for 18 months is tamper with it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
They say the history of the game like they fucking know.
Oh. All of his statements are contradictory to everything he said the previous sentence. And I think that's all you've got to know about the way that they're looking at these themselves, and they have zero regard to what effect that these things will have on the overall sport. There's no way you can look at all of these rule changes they've brought in and say it's made rugby league better. All it's done is take the closest competition in the world, in all of world sport, and has trashed it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's done. It's taken something that was at its pinnacle and then said, fuck this, it's too good.
Yeah.
I can only assume the reason why it's happened is because PVL thinks that he's a chance of getting the top job at Rugby Australia.
I tell you what,
think about it, man. Think about it.
If he turned around and got that top job there, it would make so much sense for everything that's happened.
Because he's helped them get a TV rights deal with a free-to-air TV provider. Sure, it's not on their actual network, but it's better than what they had.
Which was
with Channel 9. Yeah. And it's with Channel 9. He's helping them out. He's destroying the fabric of rugby league. Watch this space.
Be amazing if that happened. It would be wrong of us not to talk about the Latrell Mitchell incident with Joey Manu. Did you see it? I didn't watch the game, but I saw the incident.
Likewise, I didn't see the game, but I did watch the incident. To me, it's blatant, it's reckless, it's intentional, it's high. I would be giving him a lengthy suspension because he's been producing, for me, a bit too much of this grubby shit in his game in the last 18 months. And I think a long suspension from this sort of crap might be just enough to give him the kick in the ass to say, mate, don't stop playing the game aggressively, but you need to stop trying to hurt people. He's had a few clumsy sort of tackles and weird shit he's done throughout this year. that he's had to go to the judiciary for. There was one against the Tigers at the start of the year where a Tigers player had tackled him around the legs, and just after he's let go, Mitchell's done a mule kick and almost hit the bloke in the head. And I think he actually did the same thing about a month or so ago as well. And he might have actually connected, not with the head, but with the shoulder or something with another player. You know, I understand you want to get out of the tackle. Why would you try and injure someone in the process? Because it's now starting to become a bit of a trend where it looks like he is generally trying to hurt someone with some of this shit. That's the concern, because it's not a one-off thing anymore.
See, I thought that the tackle was, I just thought it was reckless. I didn't think it was intentional. I think he definitely wanted to smash Manu. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think he intended to smash his face in, you know? Like, I don't think that, it's not like he come in with the cocked elbow, okay? His arm was down by his side.
No, but his shoulder was pretty, like, he had his shoulder leading. He was
Yeah, but you got to brace for impact.
He wasn't bracing for impact.
So I think he was.
You just said yourself he was coming in to smash him. You don't come in and smash someone while bracing for impact. He came in to hit him hard. I think we've both agreed on that.
Oh yeah, he come in to absolutely smash him.
Yeah, but I'll agree that he wasn't trying to hit him in the head. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
but he was leading with the shoulder, which you can't do. And the arm, it's almost like he's gone, right, I'm going to put a shoulder charge on this bloke, and he gets halfway through and going, oh, fuck, I better bring my arm around to make it look like a legit tackle. And then his arm swings around like a fucking swinging arm, like it's about to coat hanger someone, and going, it just all looks sloppy and ugly. But it just says to me, it was an intentional attempt to pull off a shoulder charge.
I don't know. I just look, Latrell Mitchell. I'll keep on going to call him Mitchell something. I don't even know what the next word coming out of my mouth is. But Latrell Mitchell is gigantic. I don't think most people realise he is massive. He's like as big as most forwards.
Yeah.
I was shocked when I saw him the first time in real life. It was during the Test match between Australia and New Zealand, and he's huge. And he's a very, very good athlete. And so he's moving a big body around very quickly. And you see a dude like that size come into that tackle, he's going to hurt somebody. Even if he hits you legally, he's going to really, really hurt you. And I just think that he was coming in and, you know, he's an elite athlete and he's trying to do things at 1,000 miles an hour. And I just think it was a little bit reckless in terms of he probably shouldn't have come in that quickly, just because he should have been in a better defensive position. Like when you're coming in at that speed, if anything happens, you're out of position because you're going straight ahead. He's like, you know, 110 kilos or something. You're not moving. And when he hit him in the head, I mean, he smashed his face in. It's terrible. But, you know, and the other thing out of that game is people were saying about the way he was carrying on and they didn't like the way.
I don't care about that.
I don't care about that either. In fact, I want to say this. I think he needs to embrace that.
I'm like you. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's like it's a tough sport. It's a man's sport. It's an unforgiving sport. He's not there to make friends, and I'm fine with that. He doesn't have to make friends. But seeing Joey Manu's face smashed in was horrifying. And then when he grabbed his nose and he blew and his face puffed up with air because all of his sinuses are smashed and ripped. That's that was genuinely shocking to me to see that. And my understanding was that anytime you think you've got a broken nose or even a broken cheekbone or something, that medical professionals are like, do not blow your nose. And I was kind of shocked to see the trainer just let him sort of do that.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too an awful lot. You don't blow your nose when you've copped a blow around the sinus region, around your eyes and your nose, and you never blow your nose.
Yeah.
And the biggest concern wasn't so much to what happened to them, but if you haven't broken it, but it's very, very weakened or, you know, there's been some sort of damage done there, blowing your nose could be usually there's enough force coming through blowing your nose that it could actually set off a fracture if it's half done.
Mm.
I'd say don't do it.
Oh, it's terrible. And you could see like when he did it, and his face puffed up full of air straight away, and you could see he went from being in a bad way to straight away. It was like he was in a crisis moment.
Yeah, you're like, holy shit, that happened quick.
Yeah, and oh man, it really was one of the most shocking things I've ever seen on a footy field. And he's going to pay the price for it. I believe that if he takes the early guilty plea, that Latrell Mitchell will be out for 6 weeks, will be this season. Joey Manu won't come back before next year. It was just horrible to see. And I think that I would say to Latrell Mitchell, like, you're a big dude. I don't care that he doesn't want to make friends out in the footy field, but I would say that there's times where if he goes in at 1,000%, it's going to take the slightest move or pass or whatever by the opposition for Latrell to be out of position. And if he just takes the split second longer to get there, but he's more in control of his body and he's more in control of his movement, that's what South needs out of him.
Yeah, that's right. It's at the moment there's just too much ill discipline in his game to be a genuinely good fullback. He's got all the skills, all the ability to be one of the best fullbacks we've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But too much ill discipline is just ruining it for him. Because more than anything, he's been suspended too much. So he's not getting a chance to stay on the field for a long period of time and build the form required to become one of the greats. As he's getting close, he then goes and does something silly and gets suspended, and you've got to wait another 6-8 weeks, or this case, it's going to be wait till next year, and then you've got to start all over again. And he's doing himself more harm than anything else.
Yeah. Well, when they lost him last year, it was a gigantic blow to South. So it really ended their season pretty much. And it was he did his hamstring really badly. And this time he's taken himself out for 6 weeks at least. It's 10 if he fights it and he loses, which I think is, fair enough. 10 weeks. I mean, he smashed the guy's face in.
Yeah.
But, it's basically the end of South's chances in what was looking like at the very, very best a 3-horse race. It's not good.
No, it's not good at all. So it's I think he's got to be at a turning point now. He's 24. Surely he's got to be at the point now where he goes, you know what? I need to start changing that aspect of my game. Just being a little bit cleaner with tackles and discipline. It's not a huge change we're asking for.
Mm.
Just get that tiny little bit of niggle you've got in your game and that little bit of sloppiness you've got in there. Just remove it. It's an easy fix. Everything else you're doing is perfectly fine. We're talking about a 1%er here.
Yeah, and I would say to him, look at Greg Inglis, who is really the only... I mean, I consider Latrell to be pretty close to being a super athlete in the NRL. And Greg Inglis was without question a super athlete. And I would say, look at the way Greg Inglis played and look at how when he brought his physicality into the contest, it was measured. And that's what made it all the more devastating. Greg Inglis could have definitely gone around and just used his size and speed to keep blasting people. But the thing about Greg Inglis was he waited, and then he applied it all at the same time. And that's what was so devastating about him.
Yes, and he got better at that as he got older. And I think understood the power that he had with his body as well when it come to the contact.
Yeah, and I think that Latrell, because he is so young, and I think because he's still learning that fullback position and having that freedom to run the ball or having the freedom to be a roaming defensive player. I think he's still learning all of these things, and every so often you see it in him. You see that he realizes he's a gigantic, great athlete, and that if he hits a hole right, if he times his run right, he's almost unstoppable. And hopefully that learning process continues to the point where he does get to that Inglis level of any time. I mean, Greg Inglis with his physicality, and forget his skill level, because his skill level was as good as anyone as well, but just the physical level Greg Inglis brought in, when he would apply it to the game, it just was everything changed. It was like, oh, everyone else is just pretending out here. This is Greg Inglis's world. We're all just living in it.
I want to go back to that bit where you talked about Lockyer. Now he just looked like he always had time.
Mm-hmm.
Inglis never looked like he always had time, but what he always had was the ability to just brush off any bastard he fucking wanted to with that immense fend.
Yeah.
He had a fend that any 80s centre would love. Because
it was
centres
that
in the 80s had just the greatest fucking fend.
Yeah.
It had to be, because they weren't just pushing off other centres who were, 80 or 90 kilos. They were pushing off a bunch of fat blokes from the pub. You had to hit them hard.
It's hard to describe to people what it was like to watch Mal Meninga kind of 3/4 into his career when he had properly filled out, and what he was able to do physically to opposition teams, and just like the optics of this giant man who was just built like a brick shit house, and yet when you got him the ball with a bit of space, and it was just like, what are they going to do now? Because he had that fend. He had a pretty good bit of toe for someone that size. He had really good skill. But the thing about Inglis was, like, he was way bigger. I can't say stronger, but he was definitely faster. Way bigger.
He's faster too. Better hands.
I think, yeah, better hands, yeah.
One of my, I can't remember which game it was, but it's just implanted in my brain. There was one time when Meninga was running downfield and he fended someone. And when you fend someone, you're pushing them to the side and you push off them as you run around them. So it's got a twofold effect. You're pushing the defender away and you're running away from them.
Yeah, they pushed, some of their momentum goes into your body, and so you push off of that, and that gives you momentum, yeah.
Yeah. Meninga used to just fend someone off who was standing in front of him. He just pushed them over backwards and then just run over the top of them.
Mm.
Like, oh, look, a speed hump is standing up. Let's just flatten that. And then just go over it. That's what he did, and it didn't slow him down. It's just insane.
It was crazy.
I've never seen anyone have that much power in the backs ever. Just insane to watch.
No, I think, oh man, I reckon Inglis had that power personally.
Oh, he did, but I don't think he ever used it like that though.
No, he used it differently. And like if Mal Meninga happened now, he would be as physically dominant as he was back then. Like it's not like you say, well, it's a different era and stuff like that. Like he would be Mal Meninga now.
Yeah.
And he would be the first pick for Australia now, all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, Inglis was like the second coming of Mal Meninga. And man, I miss watching Inglis play. He was one of my favourite players ever to watch, because it was just the complete package of, like, people forget he played 5/8 in a grand final winning team, and he played centres in a grand final winning team, and he played fullback in a grand final winning team. Like, it's unbelievable. He was so skillful.
Yeah, he's absolute freak of an athlete, that bloke. There's no doubt about it. I want to go into something that I wrote for the League Unlimited magazine this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's stats.
Okay.
So I was looking at...
do you like stats?
Oh, I don't mind them. I dabble.
Yeah.
I dabble. I was looking at just how lopsided 2021 has been.
Okay.
And I want to make it clear, when I do an article like this, I go, what's an idea I could do for a stats article? I don't research first and then go, oh, yeah, let's exploit that. I go, okay, I'm just going to research this and see what it's like, and just write it as I go. So it's interesting how it works out, because I didn't know how 2021 was going to fare. In my mind, when I think of lopsided seasons, there's always a few markers that stand out for me. Okay, first one's going to be 1935, when Dave Brown just eviscerated everyone, and you had Canterbury in their first season, and University, who were just utterly woeful at that time, both getting flogged every week. 1920, when you had Annandale and University both playing, and the only time they both appeared in the one season. There's 1959 and 1963 or 4, just Dragons belting everyone.
Yep.
And then you're looking at 1994 with the Raiders and Manly, 95 with those 4 new teams coming in. Those are the markers for lopsided seasons. And I was wondering whether 2021 would compete with any of those, because the one thing it didn't have that all those seasons had, we haven't had a new team in 2021. We've got all established teams. Nothing's been new for 15 years almost.
Yeah.
So I was looking at a few different ways to check it. And the first one I did was the points differential between the best and the worst. So, the team with the best points differential, which is Melbourne, and the worst, which is the Bulldogs. Okay, so this is at the end of last round, so not including games this week. And 2021 was sitting at, that gap was 889 points. There's only been 3 seasons that have had a wider gap. 1982 had 970 points. Who was
at the bottom then?
Canberra is their first season, and they had minus 593. And
so
Parramatta at the
how quickly they got better, hey?
Yeah, and Parramatta at the top with plus 377. 1935, you had East, who had plus 442. Let's remember too, that's in 16 games.
Yeah.
And Canterbury were minus 510. Wow. And then 1999, and that was where it was 913 points. Cronulla were plus 254, and West were minus 659.
That makes sense.
those were the only 3 times we've had more lopsided seasons. But we still have 2 rounds to play at this point. So we still had to make up 100 points difference, which is doable. It's doable.
Definitely, yeah. I guess the other thing I would say is that those teams that had the worst for and against from those historic seasons, my guess is the points they had actually scored were nowhere near what the points that was scored by the worst for and against team is this year in the NRL. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's probably very true. So I then did the same process, points difference, but I checked it out between first place and fourth place.
Oh, okay.
All right. So 1935 was again at the top of the list there, 447 points, because East were plus 442 and North were minus 5. So that's a gap of 447.
Wow. How many teams were in comp that year?
9.
Okay, yeah.
1959 was second with 402 points. That was St. George plus 360 and Newtown minus 42. 2001, 352 points, Parramatta plus 433 and Cronulla plus 81. And then you've got this year, which was Melbourne plus 499 and the Roosters plus 159. That's a long drop back. So that's another 107 points off the top there. But 2021 currently sits 4th there. Okay. That's a pretty massive gap there.
Yeah.
I looked at, again, similar sort of numbers when I looked at the difference between first and 8th. Because I went with first and 8th because at the moment that's the top and the bottom of the finals contenders.
Yep.
And 2021 ranked 3rd. Now, the reason why that's fascinating for me is because for the first almost 50 years of the game, the most number of teams you ever had in a season was 9, and that only happened for maybe 4 or 5 seasons. The rest of the time it was 8 teams. So this is comparing first and last for the first 40, 50 years. And yet 2021 slotted in the 3rd.
Yeah.
And it was 1935 at the top with 952 points. 1920 was second, almost 400 points less.
Wow.
And then 2021, 531 points. Then we go into another area, which is looking at the number of times a game has seen 40 points or more scored in it.
Okay.
the top 5, 2001, 49 games where that happened. And as of right now, 1995 and 2021 are equal second on 45 games.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Like 2001, or like the Eels team in 2001, which I'm sure contributed to a lot of the 40-point games, that was legitimately a very, very good Eels team. And that was, I believe that was still the unlimited tackle.
It was, yes.
Yeah. So unlimited tackle. Brian Smith had put together an almost perfect unlimited tackle team. And it was literally, for that 1 year, they were unbelievable, properly unbelievable. 95, you bring in 4 teams, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then this year, where the competition's been stable for over a decade.
That's the other thing, is that all those other seasons, you can look at unique factors as to what's caused it, and none of them have been rules related. They've all been the introduction of a new team. And history will show you that every time you bring a new team into the comp, more often than not, the first year, they are just the whipping boy for everyone.
Mm.
And so you bring in two teams at the same time, like they did in 47 and 67 and even 82, you're going to get increased blowouts and stuff like that. You got 2 whipping boys to smash. 95, they brought in 4 of them. So it's just whippings all around going on there. 94 was the only sort of outlier there because all the teams had been set for 6 years at that stage.
Yeah.
But even still, doesn't compare with 2021 because we haven't had any changes since the Titans came in 2007.
And the other thing is too, like, as with 2001, where you can say, wow, that Eels team was red hot. In 95, the Raiders were just out of this world, maybe one of the best teams of all time. The Manly Seagulls were unbelievable. Even the Bulldogs were unbelievable that year.
Yeah.
So it's not like you think of that Bulldogs team and the Raiders had the wood on them, you know? It's not like you can't look at those seasons and say, yeah, but that team was probably good. This Storm team's pretty good, you know? But they're not of that Raiders ilk.
No, that Raiders side in 94, my goodness.
They were crazy. They were the best team I've ever seen in my life at that level until the Storm teams that had all their superstars in it. Inglis, you know, Smith, Slater. Then they become the best team I've ever seen.
You could almost build, I reckon, I'm just going to have a look now. I was thinking you could almost build a 13-man side out of that 1994 Raiders team who were all rep players at the time that they were playing in 94. So have a look, you've got Clyde, Jason Croker, Laurie Daly, David Ferner, David Lomax, John Lomax, Mal Meninga, Brett Mullins, Noah Nadruku, Ken Nagus, Quentin Pongia, Ricky Stewart, Steve Walters, Ruben Wiki. That's 14 players.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Brett Hetherington. I think he was like was he a country player or something?
He might have been later on, yeah.
City or country player.
Who else has got there?
I'm trying to think of who their last couple of players were.
Have a look. They've got...
Oh, there was David Wesley, who was a PNG player.
David Wesley, yep. Simon Wolford, I think, played for country. He made his debut that year.
Wow, that's crazy.
This was it. David Boyle.
He was a handy player. He was a solid first grader.
Yeah. Very solid player.
He would have been a starter at most clubs.
Yeah. He's, I believe it's that David Boyle. His son is Morgan Boyle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, playing for Manly at the moment. So, yeah, they also had Jason Deeth.
He was a good player.
Yeah.
He was a really good player. He would have been a starter at most clubs. Didn't he become a Cowboy?
I know. Luke DeVico was there as well.
Yeah,
he went to the Cowboys, then to the Warriors, and then South finished up there.
DeVico, he was a starter at nearly every other club.
Yeah. We ended up at Newcastle, but he played 194 games.
Yeah.
Just insane squad.
It was crazy. But when you were watching them, like you knew it. Like it wasn't like you had to look at the record books to work out where they stood. Like you were watching this team and you were like, holy crap, they're amazing. And the funny thing was that their forward pack was probably it was talked about less than their back line because their back line was crazy. But their forward pack was one of the best forward packs that any team's put together.
Yeah. Look at their list of try scorers for the year. Jason Croker, 22. Brett Mullins, 22. Ruben Wiki, 15. Mal Meninga, 13. Nadruku, 12. Nagus, 11. Clyde, 10. Steve Walters at hooker scored 9 fucking tries.
That's insane.
Oh, my God.
There's so many players in that team you could make, and I'm not saying they are. You can make some damn good arguments that they were the best in their position of all time. Like, you could make a really good argument that Bradley Clyde was the best lock of all time. You could make a really good argument that Ricky Stewart was the best halfback of all time. You could make a really good argument that Steve Walter was the best hooker of all time. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
The funny thing is, Jason Croker, I mean, a lot of people think of him as a second rower because that's where he ended up his career. In 94, he played wing, 5'8", second row, lock.
Yeah.
And he often played as a roving lock whenever Clyde was off the field. He would slot in at centre occasionally if there was an injury out there or if they just needed to shuffle things around. He was their versatile player. He was their Luke Lewis, so to speak.
Yeah, and so I mean, has there ever been a utility better than him? Like, when I think of utility players that are really, really good, I think of someone like a Craig Wing who could come in at hooker and be really, really good. You could play him at halfback or 5'8", and he would do a pretty good job. You could even at a stretch throw him in the back line and he wouldn't let you down. But Croker was a big dude that was deceptively quick. Like, he was fast. He had incredible footwork for someone his size. And you could literally put him anywhere on the field.
Well, there's one player, and I think this is the only player I know of, who has played at least one game in first grade in every single position. And he played in the 80s and 90s. His name was Alan Wilson. 2 games at fullback, 19 games on the wing, 1 game at centre, 4 at 5'8", 1 at halfback, 1 at prop, 8 at hooker, 31 in the second row, 25 at lock, and 17 off the bench.
That's insane. It's not even like he played just a few here and there. It was like everywhere for a lot of games.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Unbelievable player. Played 2 games for New South Wales in the 1989 State of Origin series too.
Damn. Luke Lewis is right up there. Like,
he never played hooker or front row.
Front row.
Oh no, was it fullback? I don't know. It was one of those. He only missed 1 or 2 positions.
I'm almost certain he would have played fullback at some point.
Well, yeah. I've got a database. Let's check it out.
Yeah, have a look. If only we had somebody that had these stats.
Yeah. No, never played fullback.
Really? I would have thought he would have, even at the Panthers.
He's got wing, centre, 5'8", halfback, second row, lock, and bench. So he didn't play fullback. He didn't play prop.
Wow.
I mean, I only said that.
I tell you, it's weird how you think of a utility player. Like, you could look at like Tony Carroll as a utility player as well, just for the fact of he was an unbelievable player in the centres, like a rep player in the centres, but he could also play in the forward pack if you asked him to without any problems.
Absolutely.
But that's still pretty limited compared to the guys we're talking about as well.
Oh, Alan Wilson. And the thing about Alan Wilson too, like a lot of people might think that, he just evolved through his career and he just played different positions as he changed and got older. He just become a forward. No. I think in 1989 he played 3 or 4 games in a row on the wing, and his next game after that was prop, and then he went to 5'8", then centre, then second row. It just sort of, it literally did just go anywhere, and he just moved anywhere they wanted to, and he just did the job.
That's nuts.
So a lot of people used to call back in the 20s Jimmy Craig as Mr. Versatile, I think it was. Sorry, Jimmy, but Alan Wilson's got you covered, mate.
Yeah, he's got to be number one, doesn't he?
I'm ranking him number one. People need to know more about Alan Wilson. He's an absolute legend. If you're listening, mate, I'd love to have you on.
Can you imagine the stories he has? I'd love to ask him, like, what happens when you're a winger one week and then the coach says, we need you to fill in a prop this week? Like, what is the dread level? Like, do you start thinking to yourself, man, what did I do wrong?
I'd just be fascinated to hear how he prepared for each role and was just able to do it perfectly fine and constantly do it his whole career. That's just fascinating to me, how someone can be that versatile.
Yeah.
The entirety of their career and make it work. Unbelievable.
It really is, isn't it? Like, it's crazy. I wonder how Crocker did it. Because he moved around a bit and was asked to be, like, there was a lot of times, as I said, he just was thrown out there to be a footy player.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was a little bit more slightly built when he first came onto the scene. He's still a solid sort of guy, but as he got older, he got a bit more stocky, and so he was just destined to be in the back row. But he had very good hands. I don't think people realise just how good a ball player he was.
Yeah, he was very good. You know, he reminds me a little bit of Tyrone Peachy, just in the sense of, you could have thrown him out there and just said, go and play football.
Yeah.
And it was going to be fine. He was going to work it out.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most underrated players in that Raiders side through the 90s.
Without question. And like, understandably, like, look at his teammates.
Yeah. Bunch of Hall of Famers.
I was thinking actually the other day about that 94 season, and because you think of Tom Trbojevic this year and the way he has come out and played footy this year since coming back from slipping over in the shower. And I was kind of lining that up against when all of a sudden Brett Mullins just exploded in 94, and I think he scored something like, I felt like it was something like 11 tries in 4 games. It was something ridiculous.
Yeah, he did. He was, God, I can't remember what it was. There was a period there in the midway through the season.
Yeah, and it was like I think
the
first one might have been against the Knights. And
that was the last one. So he had 3 tries against the Sharks in round 16.
Yeah.
Round 17, 4 tries against South, and then the round after that, he played against Newcastle and scored 4 tries there, and I think 3 of those were length of the field ones.
Yeah.
I've never seen a fullback dominate a team as easily as he did against the Knights that night. That game, it's one of the few regular season games that just always sticks in my head.
Same here. I remember going when we went back to school, and we were just all like, you couldn't believe what you'd seen.
No.
Because like, people need to remember, back then you weren't watching every single game because they just weren't on TV. So you only seen a couple of games. And so you didn't have this database in your head of like thousands and thousands of games back then that you'd seen. And so to see Brett Mullins it was just like a bomb went off in the competition.
Yeah.
And the Knights were helpless that night.
Yeah, they were just eviscerated. All they did was turn up and just prayed for fucking full time.
Yeah. And, it's crazy because there's not too many players that have had the ability to do that to another team. And one of the players that has that ability, Latrell Mitchell, he could do that to a team where it doesn't matter what happens, he is going to eviscerate them, and there's nothing they're going to do about it. And if he can just get it together, he will be that player. You just hope that he does it,
Yeah. Yeah, he's close. He's close. As I said, he sorts that discipline out. I think they'll be talking about him as, we'll all be talking about him as one of the great fullbacks in short time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the fact that we're even speaking of him in English, and we're not saying he's at English's level, but the fact that we're talking about them in the same sentences says a lot.
Yeah. What else happened in the news today?
I tell you what, we got an email we could read.
Now, there's a good idea. Let's do that instead.
Okay, we've got an email from Lightning McQueen, who is a long-time listener of ours. And he said, "G'day, cunts. Struth, it's been good to have Andrew back on the podcast. Freaky did a solid job in your absence, but now you're back. Fucking bang. We're on." It's funny because you and me were talking about that before the podcast. "I have just finished watching the Eels versus Storm game, and as a proud Eels fan, I'm struggling to think of a game in the last few years where I felt this much pride as a fan. Bloody good to get one over the Storm. Watch the Souths versus Roosters game this round as well, and while I won't bang on too much about Latrell's hit, I will say this: he and a couple of other boys in the team look to be awful sports and not the kind of blokes you'd ever want to play for or with. Grubby tactics, niggling, and bad tempers have marred a fairly good year for the Bunnies, and I sincerely hope they get it out of their game sooner rather than later. Fuck Volandi's ball and all the shit-chewing cunts that like it. The sooner he's gone, the better. Stay safe, everyone. Lightning McQueen." That's a good email, that one.
That's a very good email. Thanks for that, mate.
Yeah, thank you. And for anybody that wants to know, Lightning McQueen is the one that put together the intro for the start of this episode. And he explicitly said that he wanted people to know it was him. And he sent us an invoice.
Yeah. We'll talk with our people and we'll get that paid. Don't you worry about that, mate. Freaky's got some Ponzi coin. You might just siphon some funds off that and send it your way.
Mate, at this point, I don't have some Ponzi coin. I have a lot of Ponzi coin. I'm going good.
So yeah, you'll get a few Ponzi coin. You might also get asked to buy some Amway stuff.
Every time I hear Cooper Cronk talk, and I feel like he's going to start selling Amway. He just feels like that sort of dude.
He does a bit. I can't argue with too much of it either. This South team they've been gradually getting a little bit grubbier.
Mm-hmm.
Not to the point where it's anything of any concern for me. I just go, you know what, they're just playing the game a little bit harder than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So be it. Everyone else just needs to catch up or get left behind pretty much. That's sort of my attitude to it. But so long as you have it in a controlled state, so to speak, and it's not getting too bad or no one's getting injured, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's when you take it too far, I just go, yeah, you know what? That's just been fucking stupid now.
And the funny thing is, like, that can get to some teams, but the very, very worst opponent you can have is the monster, the heartless monster that you cannot get to and you cannot stop, like the Shane Webke, who just keeps coming at you. He's coming at you. He's coming at you. He's coming at you. He's not saying anything. He's not doing anything. It's just 80 minutes of this bastard who does not stop. Jason Taumalolo's the same way. It's like there's no niggle, there's no nothing, but you cannot stop him. And I would sometimes want to talk to players or a team and say, the worst thing you can be to an opposition is that, not the niggling stuff. Because the niggling stuff, it's very easy to put your own game off with it. But when you're that just unstoppable monster that's got no heart and soul, there's no stopping that.
Kind of reminds me of possibly one of the first players to be like that was actually Dally Messenger.
Yeah.
And there's a game in it might have been 1909 or 1910, and very prolific try-scoring winger for South, Tommy Anderson, had the job of marking up against Dally Messenger in a game.
Mm-hmm.
And Anderson's come in, he's gone, right, I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to rush up on Dally all game, I'm going to smash him in every tackle. I'm going to destroy him. I'm going to prove to everyone that I'm as good as Dally Messenger. That was his attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And every time he did it, Messenger just popped straight up really quick, played the ball, played as if nothing was bothering him, scored a few tries, led the East to the win. And apparently after the game, Tommy Anderson was reportedly to have, some of the quotes were saying he's lost his spark or he's lost his edge.
Yeah.
And he barely played football after that. He went from being someone who actually went on the Kangaroo Tour in 1908-09, played for New South Wales, scored 4 tries in New South Wales' first game against Queensland. And then, space of 2.5 years and one encounter with Dally Messenger. Didn't see him. Went to war in World War One.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he may have had a few incidents with some of the local females.
Mm-hmm.
Often spent time being treated for VD and whatnot. He enjoyed himself when he was out on the war front. Why not?
Good luck to him.
So there you go. That was an interesting little trip down memory lane that no one was expecting.
Isn't it cool when there's a great of the game and that they're great. You've watched them be great. You've seen them achieve things and stuff. But then in the moment you see them do something that it's like, I'm watching the greatness right here. Like remember that game that Darren Lockyer broke his face in, last game he played?
Yes. And
you saw him get his face smashed and he wanted to hold his face together. And you knew his face was smashed, and this is before the HIA or anything. And he stayed out there, and you were like, oh, my God, the great Darren Lockyer is doing this. And, he played extra time and kicked the winning field goal, and you just knew you were watching him. And it was like, I love moments like that where you watch the greatness of the player. Like, there was a couple of games – I think it was last year with Jason Taumalolo, where he 1 week he broke the record for meters made by a forward, and then I think he broke it the next week as well, where you're watching it and you're like, oh, I'm watching the great Jason Taumalolo right now. Every time he runs the ball, look, the great Jason Taumalolo's get the ball again. I love those moments.
Yeah. Being able to see it, as it happened, you don't get that very often.
No,
pretty much you don't learn about greats until after the fact.
Yeah. But then the rare moments where you're watching it and you're acknowledging it at that moment, like Benji Marshall 2008 World Cup final, where you were like, oh my God, this is the great Benji Marshall changing the history of the entire sport.
Yeah, that was
amazing.
That was insane. That he just that final play where he they got that try in the corner. You just look at him going, no one else could have done that.
No, I was at that game, and I was behind the try. I was in the stand behind the try line, and I was I was up the middle of the first concourse and the middle of the field, really good position. And that's the thing about Suncorp, even sitting there, the seats were amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it, and I was with a friend, I actually turned to them and said, oh my God, this is happening. And it there was this feeling in the stadium of what the fuck? 50,000 people feeling the same way of holy shit, fucking New Zealand's winning this game. And yeah, it was incredible. Wow.
Can I just say, I've only ever witnessed that
one
other time.
Yeah.
And that was the 2016 grand final. It's the only grand final I've been to.
Yeah.
I went along and there was a brief period of maybe 2 seconds. It felt like minutes.
Yeah.
Straight after full time was finally sounded. It felt like everyone just went quiet for a second, going, "Oh fuck, the Sharks actually won." I'm not saying that the shit's the Sharks. It's just you could tell. Like, obviously, I'm sitting around a lot of Sharks fans during that game because that's pretty much all that was at the game. And as the game started to ebb and flow, like the Sharks were dominating Melbourne in the first half, but they were barely in front at half time. And when Melbourne got that first try in the second half, you could just hear all of the Sharks' hearts sinking. Like they're going, "Oh fuck, we've had our chance. That's it. We've lost another grand final."
Yeah.
And so when they finally got that win, it's like, "Oh shit! We actually won!" And then they're just massive euphoria. And I went, that's when they were in that moment, that little second there where it sunk in.
Yeah.
You're going, that was fucking insane to be around that.
Yeah, and it's hard to describe. Like, I'm thinking, what did it sound like? It sounds like 50,000 people. It's not a cheer, right? And it's not silence. It's that 50,000 people sort of mumbling to each other, like holy shit, this is happening. But it's an excited mumbling. Yeah. And it makes an atmosphere that's very, very interesting. That's really hard to describe. And maybe you don't even know it unless you've been in that atmosphere.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to come across.
Yeah, it's like it's a real special moment. Man, we could have done a whole other podcast about this. Great moments, like when you, like I think
we can save it if you want.
We've already talked about some of the best ones.
Well, not best ones. It's just a Sharks grand final win.
That's true. we all know what they were doing to earn that one.
No, that was they were all legit.
Yeah, they were legit. They didn't break the salary cap that year. Now the year before and the year after.
Yeah, and that's a different matter. They don't matter. They weren't the premiership winning years. They don't count.
True.
Who cares?
True.
Now, apparently, just quickly, Josh Dugan could be about to cop a $255,000 fine.
Hang on. What the fuck for?
I was just having a look on the Daily Telegraph out of boredom earlier tonight, and it says on here, Josh Dugan's journey to Lithgow, and then quotation marks, to feed animals last weekend could cost the Cronulla Sharks star a whopping $255,000 fine.
How?
I think it was something to do with breaking the COVID protocols. I've got a feeling too, it's not the first time he's done it.
That's ridiculous. But
it's insane size fine though.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous. Like, you can be a fucking bank that has ripped people off for 20 years and not pay a fine that big.
Exactly.
What the fuck are we doing?
Oh, it's nuts.
I thought his fine that he got earlier in the week was a bit excessive.
Yeah. That's nuts. Henry Perenara has been dropped from the bunker. I assume that means he goes into the reserve bunker where they've just got a black and white TV, those little small ones you used to have in the 90s, the mini ones. He's just got one of those. Instead of watching the game, he's just got people from Melbourne doing street art reincarnations of what actually happened. He's got to try and decipher the art going, I think maybe there's a try. I don't know what he's doing now.
He's got he has to listen to some dope from Melbourne talking about how a black and white video of a plastic bag blowing in the wind is really just the most amazing thing ever.
Or maybe it's a metaphor for something or something. There'll be some sort of artistic crap going on. He's got to do it while drinking Melbourne mud in a cup and looking at some street art. Someone's tagged a wall somewhere.
Yeah.
Street art.
It's art.
Yeah. In Sydney, that street art gets scrubbed off the side of trains. Down here, they celebrate it as some sort of artistic impression.
Yeah, along the train lines, we paint it brown.
So yeah, there's that, and that was because let me get this straight. It's justified because after Latrell hit Manu with that high shot, neither the on-field ref or Perinara, who was in the bunker, so it was probably more Perinara than the on-field ref.
Yes,
because Perinara's got the opportunity to look on different angles and replays and stuff like that. The on-field ref doesn't.
Yes,
and the on-field ref put Latrell on report and gave him 10 minutes in the sin bin. But it should have been up to Perinara to say, you know what, he probably should have been sent off.
Yeah.
And make that call, but he made no call apparently.
Yeah, and look, I for the on-field ref, I can't blame him for it at all. As much as I think Klein is a terrible ref, just for the fact that when you watch it in full speed, it's like watching a high-speed car crash. You don't actually really know what happened, and he would have just been going off the aftermath more than anything.
Yeah. Plus, he's only got one angle, and that could be obstructed by even just one player.
Yeah.
So he's got the one angle, and I think given what he had to work with at the time, I think he made the right decision at the time, and he just gave Latrell 10 in the bin and put him on report.
Yeah.
I've got no issue with that.
No.
But I think he probably did deserve to be sent off. If the crackdown on head-eye tackles was meant to be legit and long-lasting, it would have been a send-off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know how long Perinara is going to be demoted to the reserve bunker.
I just think that it all comes back to we just need to basically ditch the video refereeing for everything except touchdowns in goal, because all it's done is cause more problems.
Yeah. What else has been going on quickly? Oh, Adam Dewey has to have a ACL in his knee operation.
That's a shocker, that one.
Could be missing a chunk of the start of next year. I reckon the first 3 months of next season. Not next season. Yeah, the next premiership season. So it could be 11, 12 rounds in before he gets to come back on the field.
It's terrible.
That hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts. So right off the Tigers next year.
You know what? Next year I was thinking, will they be in my top 8?
You were contemplating. I know you were.
Definitely not now.
But I'll give you an inside word. I'd say write them off.
Oh, you know what? I thought that they might be in my top 12 next year.
Top 12, yeah. I had them edging towards the top 15.
Yeah. Okay, quick one.
Yeah, man.
Who would be your favourite for the wooden spoon next year?
It's hard to see how the Tigers and the Dragons aren't going to be competing for it next year.
Yeah, because I think that the Broncos, they're definitely improving the Broncos.
Oh, yeah.
The Bulldogs are going to have enough talent next year to not be at the bottom of the ladder. The Cowboys, I don't see where they're going.
Yeah, the Cowboys are the other ones. But the thing is, they can pull out random strong performances and maintain that form for a month. And I think that's going to be enough for them to avoid the spoon enough. But the Cowboys are able to get back-to-back wins more than once every 3 years. And I think that's something that they've got over the West Tigers.
I also think with the Cowboys, they've got an ability to find players from their local junior competition.
Yeah.
And that's something that they're actually pretty good at. You know, you think of all of the great players that they've developed over the years. So you wouldn't be shocked if next year they found a centre or another second rower or something. Like, they're not too far off. They just need to get Taumalolo back, get a little bit more talent around him.
Maybe Peyton should move Taumalolo to 5'8".
Imagine him as a 5'8".
Well, yeah, it would change the definition of strong ball running 5'8", wouldn't it?
Yeah,
All of a sudden, Jack Whiten looks like shit.
he really would. That reminds me, actually, I was watching the Titans play, and Dave Fafita coming off the bench, and he's $1 million player. And that's not good enough for $1 million player, not even close. But then when he's out on the field, he is running out and conservatively at center. And at worst, like I saw him push the center and the winger basically over the sideline.
Yeah,
he was running that wide.
He's getting to the Ellis corridor.
Yeah, he's like, if he goes another 10 feet further than that, he's in that Ellis zone.
I mean, we discussed this in the last episode. It's where all second rows are running now.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I hate it.
Well, that's why you can get someone like Kurt Capewell playing in the centres.
Yeah, exactly.
And being all right at it, because he's really only facing other dudes that are basically not really attacking centres, or their second rows running at him.
That's right. Oh, you got Talakai at the Sharks is doing the same thing. He runs out that wide.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's crazy. That's just the way it is now. It's just you get a whole heap of second rows on that. You know, they're running as centres now. Where the hell do you put centres?
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad we brought the little man back into the game.
Yeah, we brought him in.
Yeah,
so that on the fucking
can play centre for the Raiders.
Yeah. We brought the little man in, then we parked him out on the fucking wing and say, stand out there and don't do anything.
But just whatever you do, don't touch the ball. And for some reason they say, and if the ball comes out this way on the opposition, you run in as hard as you can. Don't stay on your wing. You sprint in like you're Jared Crocker.
David Nofaluma.
Yeah.
Yeah. You run in as far as you can, as fast as you can. We don't care what happens after that. Just get in there and get out of the way.
Can you imagine those two both defending together?
Oh. Remember this time last year they were talking about having Nofaluma playing for New South Wales.
Yeah, that was silly.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Oh dear, oh dear. I guess that wraps up this episode, does it?
Yeah, we did good, I think.
Yeah. Be sure to check out our opening theme tune and give us a bit of feedback on what you think about it. Just let you know, I played drums. Freaky played lead guitar. It's just something we whipped up.
Lightning McQueanbean, he did all of the mixing.
He's the mixing. He did all the lyrics.
Yep.
He played bass. He's a fucking killer bass guitarist.
He played bass. He
also played tambourine. You'll hear a little bit of tambourine in there, maybe.
Yeah, just slight. It's very slight tambourine.
Very slight. Yeah, that's
very
right.
good with the tambourine.
Oh, Clark, mate, his wrist action with the tambourine. You just know that's a man who's done a lot of wrist exercises.
Lots of them. Like, I thought my wrists were good. Damn.
He's smooth. Very smooth. I won't labour on that one for too long. People might get the wrong idea. Let's just say, love your work, mate.
Hey, Andrew, if somebody was going to contribute to Rugby League Project and all of the great work that is done through Rugby League Project, how could they do that?
League Freak, what they could do is they could go to patreon.com/RL Project and you can make a donation there from as little as $1 Australian per month, or you can make it $1 US per month if you like to. Both options are available to you. And can I also ask, League Freak, if people wanted to support one of the longest running independent rugby league content creators there is on the world of the interwebs, where could they go to do that?
They can send nudes to, they can go to patreon.com/League Freak, no spaces. And they can either contribute $1 US a month, which is as low as it can go, or they can choose to select one of the tiers on the site, some of which come with merchandise if you've been on that tier for 3 months. And
what sort of merchandise are we talking about?
We're talking about a mug. We're talking about a T-shirt. And we're talking about a sticker, all League Freak stuff. And if you're on that tier for 3 months, boom, I send you one for nothing. It's like gone. It's yours. It belongs to you now. You're now part of the inner circle.
Yeah. Don't try and remove the chip that's inside that merch either. It's there for a reason.
Yeah. Look, if you see anything in it, right, that looks like it might be a video recording device, just ignore it.
It's not. Trust us, it's not.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
You know what we should do?
Yeah.
Given how well this promo's just gone.
Yeah.
We should definitely be trying to roll out the COVID-19 vaccine.
We should. What would be a really good slogan for the vaccine?
Get vaccinated or get fucked. I mean, come on, it works on several levels.
I think it should be. I think eventually it's going to be, don't make us hold you down.
Yeah, that's pretty much going to be it. Make it clear, we're not pro or anti-vaccine.
Nah,
we're pre-anti-vaccine.
Yeah, this isn't like Andrew's stance on daylight saving. Like, we're open, but just saying. Another good slogan. We'll give you back 1% of your former freedoms.
Yeah, is that? Yeah, we'll give you the vaccine. We won't make you COVID negative though. You can still get that fucker.
Oh man,
we're starting to drift.
Yeah, 2021 has been interesting. Can't wait for 2022. Yeah,
when are we going to update this thing? Now you've got a different strand of COVID. Why can't they just call it COVID 20 or COVID 21 now?
I know, right? I wonder
the
what
other 18 COVIDs.
Well, I know that like the Delta strain came out of nowhere. Like there was no Alpha strain, Beta strain. It was just all of a sudden the Delta strain. I wonder what the next one will be that we hear about.
Gamma.
I hope it's Gamma. Hey,
Gamma strain.
Just turns you into the Hulk.
Yeah, why not? And make the vaccine green. I reckon if you made the vaccine green, people would go, ooh. I reckon you'd probably get a few more people going, I'll take a bit of that.
You'd get idiots like me that love Marvel stuff going, oh, yeah.
That's right. And don't write vaccine on there. Write magic on there.
Magic. People
will take it. If you tell them you're injecting them with magic, they'll go, oh, yeah, I'll take a bit of that. It's all about marketing.
It really is. They need to sort their marketing out.
Yeah, they can give us a call.
Yeah. We're always open with suggestions.
Yeah. Yeah, you can pay us. We'll do anything if you pay us within reason.
And probably that too.
Alrighty. Well, make sure, everybody, that you check us out on Twitter and Instagram at FergoFreakPod. Also, check out League Freak on Instagram. Was it the Glorious League Freak?
Yep. Always humble.
Always humble. He's putting all his Barbie dolls and stuff up on there, so you can go there and just have a chat with him about it.
Fuck you. They are high-end collectibles.
Yeah, that's what Barbie doll collectors call them. So yeah, get on there and check them out. Show him some love. Because as you'll see when you get on there and have a look at my comments, I'm not sharing much with love.
No, Andrew just keeps shitting on every photo I put up there. To the point where I got on and he's like, you cool with me saying all that stuff on your Instagram, mate? I was like, yeah, of course I am. We're fucking, we're bros. But yeah, go and check it out. Give me some love, because you'll see all of the stuff that I've been buying for myself over the last couple of years. I'm not getting enough love, obviously.
People are just pissing on him instead.
There's a great big hole in my soul I'm trying to fill with Barbie dolls.
And Instagram hearts.
Yeah.
Come on, people, help him with some Instagram hearts. Help him out.
Yeah, give me some hearts.
So do a bit of that. We're also on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, MySpace. Got to check out the MySpace. Everyone, get over there, check all those out, subscribe to all of them, like all the videos and stuff, like all the stuff on Facebook, do all of that. Make sure you check out Fergo and the Freak on your podcast device and put on there a 5-star rating and give us a review. We haven't had one for a while, so make yourself famous. Get on there. We'll put you on our podcast, put you on our website.
Yeah. And help share the love.
Exactly. And while you're there, Freaky, how can they send an email into us so we can read that out and deal with that drama as well?
Well, we have a website and it's called fergoandthefreak.com. And if you load that website up in your website browser and then you click on the contact section, you can send us an email, just like Lightning McQueanbean did today.
Fantastic stuff. Just a lot of techo talk there. This internet thing will not catch on, but we'll ride the wave.
It's like the radio, but more in depth.
Yeah. Geez, internet, Ponzi coin. We're just tech savvy, aren't we?
I know, right? Lucky we've got interns.
Bloody oath. On that magnificent note, thanks for tuning everyone, and we will catch you all in the next episode.